Hey guys, it's Mitch here from the Bottom Line View, here to discuss another top 10, and that's the top 10 NFL defenses in football history. The criteria for this list was quite simple. I went through every team's statistics, including total points, total yards, passing and rushing yards against, turnovers, sacks, and then I looked at the roster, the All-Pros, the Pro Bowlers, and then I took into account the history of the team. Did they win the Super Bowl? When did they play? How did the rules impact their play? And so on. So I hope you guys enjoy this list. Comment below your top 10 NFL defenses and who you think is number 1. Starting with number 10, I have the 1969 Kansas City Chiefs. This team finished 11-3. They won the Super Bowl, and this team is known as the best defense in AFL history. Their playoff run was really impressive. The Chiefs only allowed a total of 20 points in 3 games and forced 13 turnovers in their 3 victories on the road to winning the Super Bowl. They were first points, they were first in yards, first against the pass and the run, first at forcing turnovers. They had 3 All-Pros, 6 Pro Bowlers, and even more impressively, they had 3 Hall of Famers in Bobby Bell, Buck Buchanan, and Willie Lanier. At number 9, I have one of my personal favorite defenses of all time. That's the 1991 Philadelphia Eagles. This team finished with a 10-6 record. They did not go to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl. They did not even make the playoffs. They were 5th in total points, but they had a horrible offense with absolutely no quarterback. Randall Cunningham, who was their offense, got hurt, and they ended up having 5 starters at the quarterback position that season. They had all pros at all 3 levels, including arguably the best defensive player of all time in Reggie White. They were violent, they were feared, and they were the second best in terms of numbers against the run and the pass in NFL history. Football Outsiders ranks it as the best of all time. One of just 2 teams since the 1970 AFL and NFL merger to lead the league in total defense, passing defense, and rushing defense. They were first in turnovers, first in sacks. They had 3 All-Pros and 5 Pro Bowlers. This 1991 Philadelphia squad is really underrated in my opinion, and I had to include them in the top 10. At number 8, I have the 1969 Minnesota Vikings, also known as the Purple People Eaters from the 60s and 70s. Their record was 12-2 that season. They did not win the Super Bowl. They were first in total points, first in total yards, first against the pass, second against the run, second in turnovers. They had 2 All-Pros, 5 Pro Bowlers, and, may I say it, one of the best D-lines of all time. The legendary Purple People Eaters led the league in defense 3 times, but this probably was their finest season. They allowed only 9.5 points per game, the second lowest average of the Super Bowl era. They also held opponents to the fewest rushing yards ever in a 14-game season. Quarterbacks had a 42.1 passer rating against this defense. That was the best in the NFL. Some astounding statistics: they had 30 interceptions, allowed just 12 touchdowns all season long, and they allowed just 3.4 yards per play. So the Vikings, the Purple People Eaters, are definitely one of the best defenses of all time. I have them at number 8. At number 7, I have the 1986 New York Giants. That season they finished 14-2, and they went to the Super Bowl and won it, with their defense powering them to that Super Bowl win, dominating the likes of Joe Montana, the Redskins, and John Elway in the Super Bowl. They actually even scored more points than Joe Montana did in that NFC divisional game. This front 7 formed one of the best of all time and one of the best, if not the best, rush defense of all time, giving up only 80.2 rushing yards per game. The team had 59 sacks this season, 24 interceptions, and only gave up 14.8 points per game. That team also had 4 Pro Bowlers, the likes of the Big Blue Wrecking Crew, the combo of LT and Bill Belichick, and a pass rush that was one of the best of all time. So, the Giants are number 7 on this list. And this is where it gets interesting. At number 6, I have the 2015 Denver Broncos. Yes, the 2015 Denver Broncos. For me, they don't quite crack the top 5, but I think 6 is about appropriate. Their record, of course, was 12-4. They did win the Super Bowl. One point that brings them back is that they gave up the 4th most points in the regular season. They were not first in that category, which I think is the most important category, of course. They were first in yards, though, and first against the pass. 3rd against the run, 3rd at causing turnovers, forcing turnovers, and 1st in sacks. They had 1 All-Pro in Von Miller and 4 Pro Bowlers. Now, what makes this defense one of the all-time greats is their outstanding playoff run. They carried a horrible offense to the Super Bowl. They beat, in my opinion, the best quarterback of all time in Tom Brady in the AFC Championship and a very good offense. They beat Cam Newton, who was MVP in the Super Bowl, and they beat no slouch Big Ben in the divisional round. So they beat 3 great quarterbacks, and they hit them a record amount of times in these games. Von Miller and that secondary goes down as a great combination. The modern NFL rules that restrict and hold back these modern defenses definitely helps their case. I have the Denver Broncos from 2015 ranking at number 6 on this list. Another modern defense cracks the list. That's the 2013 Seattle Seahawks that also won the Super Bowl, finishing 13-3. They're the best in the NFL in a number of categories, including points and yards allowed, passing yards, interceptions, turnovers, and touchdowns allowed. They destroyed the best offense, statistically speaking, in NFL history in the Denver Broncos with Peyton Manning that season. They only gave up 14.4 points per game when the league average was 24, and they gave up only 5.82 yards per play through the air. So the Seattle Seahawks from 2013 should not be forgotten about. They are the 5th best defense in NFL history. We go from one great pass defense to another. The 2002 Tampa Bay Buccaneers with their cover 2 scheme, 12-4 record, winning the Super Bowl, 1st in total points against, 1st in total yards against, 1st against the pass, 5th against the rush, 3rd in causing turnovers, 6th in sacks, 4 All-Pros that year, 4 Pro Bowlers. They held 11 opponents to fewer than 10 points. Hall of Famers everywhere on the field. You have them at defensive line, you have them at linebacker, and you have them in the secondary. And a 48.4 passer rating allowed at average in that season. That is ridiculous for a modern defense. So I think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers may have the best pass defense in NFL history. So that's why I have them at number 4. At number 3, I have probably my favorite defense in NFL history. That's the 2000 Baltimore Ravens. Their record was 12-4. They won the Super Bowl. Their total points allowed was the best of all time in terms of a 16-game season. That's 10.3, so obviously they were first in that category. 2nd in total yards allowed, 8th against the pass, 1st against the run, 1st in turnovers. They were only 22nd in sacks, but they were the best rush D of all time, and that is no question. They held 5 teams that season without a touchdown, which is pretty incredible. They had 1 All-Pro and 3 Pro Bowlers that season. The Baltimore Ravens had absolutely no offense, led by Trent Dilfer. Their defense was their offense in this case, and they won them games. The Baltimore Ravens are, for sure, a top 3 defense in NFL history. At number 2, I have the 1984 to 1986 Chicago Bears. Now, most people would say that it's just the 1985 Bears that had a spectacular defense, but if you look back at the statistics and how well they played from those 3 years, they played really well. In 1985, these were their statistics. They were 15-1. They won the Super Bowl, first in points, first in yards, third against the pass, first against the run, first in turnovers, third in sacks, but they also had the most of all time in the year previous in 1984, which still stands today at 72 sacks in one season. They had 3 All-Pros, 5 Pro Bowlers. They're possibly known as the best blitzing team of all time. They had a cutting-edge scheme in the 46 defense made by Buddy Ryan, and they had 2 shutouts in the playoffs. 2 shutouts against great teams. And I believe they only gave up 10 points in the playoffs, and 7 of that was on special teams. So the Chicago Bears are definitely, if not the greatest single-season defense of all time, but definitely one of the best defenses of all time. And at number 1, I have the 1976 Steel Curtain Pittsburgh Steelers. So this could also be known as the 1970s Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm taking the 1976 season in terms of their statistics because I believe that was their best overall season as a defense. This season they actually did not win the Super Bowl. They finished 10-4, but they were first in points and yards allowed, 6th against the pass, first in rushing defense. They were 5th in turnovers. They had 2 All-Pros, and get this, they had 8 Pro Bowlers. That's over half of their defense was on the Pro Bowl team. They had the most quarters without allowing a touchdown. That's 22 consecutive quarters without allowing a touchdown. They had the most consecutive games without allowing a touchdown in 5. They only allowed 14 touchdowns in 14 games. This defense was along for a stretch that won 4 Super Bowls. Their offensive injuries in the 1976 season kept them from winning the Super Bowl, to be quite honest. 28. That's how many points the Steel Curtain surrendered in the last 9 games of the season. That's the total, 28 points in 9 games. As a result, Pittsburgh, which started the season 1-4, made it all the way to the AFC Championship game, which they ultimately lost to a really good Raiders team. Cornerback J.T. Thomas, defensive end L.C. Greenwood, Greenham, Lambert, defensive back Glenn Edwards, safety Mike Wagner, and Blunt all made the Pro Bowl that season. So I have the Steel Curtain of the 1970s, and specifically the 1976 Pittsburgh Steelers, as the best defense in NFL history. I hope you guys enjoy this video. Please comment below. Again, comment your top 10 list. Subscribe to the channel for more top 10 from the NFL, from the NHL, from the NBA, from WWE, and check out my other top 10s on the channel. I have a top 10 for the top 10 quarterbacks of all time, the top 10 running backs of all time, the top 10 wide receivers of all time, and I'll be coming out with more lists as this offseason goes on. So thanks guys for watching the video. I'm Mitch from The Bottom Line View. Peace.